The police officer thought she was just another broke black woman causing a scene, so he grabbed her by the neck. But when he realized she was a federal judge, it was already too late. His career was over. "Step away from the vehicle now. I know you didn't buy this car." The words sliced through the quiet Saturday air like a threat. Officer Derek Mitchell stood tall, hand hovering over his holster, eyes locked on the woman beside a gleaming 1967 Mustang. Kesha Washington, calm in jeans and a clean blazer, lifted her hand slowly. Shoppers paused mid-step. Phones lifted. The circle tightened. "Hands on the hood," Mitchell barked, his voice echoing through the high-end shopping plaza. "This car matches a stolen vehicle report." Kesha's designer purse slid off her shoulder as she complied, placing her palms on the polished metal. Inside the car, a leather portfolio sat on the seat, its official emblem peeking beneath scattered papers. The tension thickened as the crowd grew. The cameras kept rolling. Ever been judged before you even speak? Branded by the color of your skin while holding more authority than the one accusing you? Ticking clock. 10 minutes until courthouse security realizes Judge Washington is missing from a critical emergency vote. Like a predator circling its prey, Mitchell moved around the Mustang. 12 years on the force had trained him to read signs, and to him, nothing about this scene added up. A black woman, casually dressed, behind the wheel of a car worth more than most folks' yearly income? 5 years of your salary wouldn't touch this engine, he announced, loud enough to feed the crowd's growing curiosity. Let's try telling the truth. 20 feet away, college student Amara Johnson kept her phone locked on the scene, live streaming to her TikTok followers. 847, 1,203, 2,456. The numbers climbed. Comments scrolled too fast to read. "Officer, I can explain," Kesha said, voice level despite the heat of shame burning her cheeks. "No, ma'am." Mitchell's hand grazed his radio. "You'll explain it to the detectives. Right now, I want registration, insurance, and proof of ownership." Eyes in every direction turned toward her. Some filmed in plain sight. Others pretended to shop, but never looked away. Then Kesha saw her, an older black woman pushing through the crowd, concern etched across her weathered face. "That's not," the woman began. "Step back, ma'am." Mitchell cut her off, eyes never leaving Kesha. "Police business." Her phone buzzed on her hip. "Chief Justice." She couldn't move, couldn't reach. Not with her hands still pressed against the hood of the very car her father had restored. The car she'd taken to every family barbecue. Every childhood memory baked into its flawless paint. "I need you to empty your pockets," Mitchell said, voice flat. "Backup would be here any minute." Saturday calls were usually petty thefts. But this smelled like the kind of case that made headlines. "Kesha Washington," she said, reading his nameplate with courtroom precision. "Badge 4847. You need to understand." "What I understand," Mitchell interrupted, "is that you're buying time. People who own cars like this don't freeze up around cops." The live viewer count hit 8,932. Amara's battery blinked at 34%. But she kept recording. This was real. This was everything people needed to see. Racial profiling, unfolding in real time. Sunlight caught the edge of the Mustang's window, glinting off a leather portfolio inside. A first-class boarding pass peeked from the side pocket from her recent conference in D.C. Next to it, half-hidden, an old courthouse VIP parking pass. The phone buzzed again. A landmark civil rights case. A swing vote. Her vote. Time slipping away. "Ma'am, I'll ask one more time," Mitchell said, his tone theatrical now, aware of the cameras. "How did you come to possess this vehicle?" Kesha's voice was steady. "It was my father's. Judge Robert Washington." His expression didn't flicker. Names meant nothing without receipts, and he planned to demand all of them. "People say anything," he said. "I want documents." A ripple ran through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Judge Washington." Heads turned. The elderly woman tried again to move forward, but others held her back. "Officer," a mall security guard called out, his radio crackling. "Everything under control. Just investigating a possible vehicle theft," Mitchell replied smoothly. He radioed for backup. That word, search, hit like a lightning strike. Phones emerged faster now, from pockets, from purses. The crowd didn't just grow. It shifted, like they all knew something was about to happen. Kesha's briefcase lay in the back seat, just out of view. Inside, sealed court documents, case files, authority in leather binding. Documents that could shut this down in seconds. But if she reached for it now, the wrong movement. Another buzz. Her absence was becoming urgent. That vote on police accountability, the irony made her chest tighten. Mitchell's voice cut through again. Backups en route. Requesting supervisor for possible recovery. Amara's live feed hit 12,847 viewers. Comments blurred. This is wrong. Why isn't someone helping her? Someone tagged the news. The elderly woman finally broke through. Officer, that woman is. Final warning, Mitchell snapped. Step back or be arrested. Kesha watched her retreat, defeat in her eyes. No courthouse staff. No colleagues. Just strangers. Just phones. Mitchell's voice barked again over the radio. Unit 47, requesting additional support. Suspect is non-compliant. Crowd growing hostile. Non-compliant. Hostile. He was writing the story before the truth ever had a chance. Kesha knew what that meant. She'd seen it in courtrooms. How a few words could change everything. Her briefcase, just inches away. But movement meant risk. Meant escalation. So she stood still. Hands on the hood. Cameras rolling. Power. Hidden in plain sight. Minutes until they realized the judge is missing. Then came the sirens. Piercing the Saturday hum with strobing urgency. 2 squad cars turned the corner, casting the crowd in blue flashes. From the first car, Sergeant Reynolds stepped out, 23 years of measured judgment in his eyes. "What's the situation?" he asked. Mitchell puffed up. "Possible vehicle theft. Subject claims ownership but has no documentation." Reynolds looked at Kesha. Something didn't sit right. But field protocol said support the officer. "Ma'am, please step away while we verify the situation." Amara's live stream exploded. 23,471 viewers. Battery at 28%. Still recording. Hashtags flew. Hashtag racial profiling. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag justice for Judge Washington. Wait, Judge Washington? From the second patrol car, Officer Janet Torres stepped out. She'd seen too many viral incidents go wrong. She started crowd control, body cam recording, voice comm. "Sarge, this crowd is heating up. Media's arriving." A news van rolled in. Satellite dish up. Reporter Jennifer Martinez stepped out, camera ready. In the crowd, the elderly woman, Mrs. Dorothy Hayes, tapped slowly on her phone. She knew that face. Knew those calm, calculating eyes. 40 years in the justice system had taught her how power looks, even in denim. "Officers," Kesha said, voice echoing with courtroom command. "This is a serious misunderstanding. I need to make a call." "No calls until we finish," Mitchell snapped. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." The crowd stirred. "She's not resisting. This is harassment." A teen live streamed from another angle. Reynolds held up a hand. His radio buzzed. "Disturbance on 5th. Electronics store break-in. Saturday chaos mounting." "Look," Reynolds said, softer. "If you can show paperwork, this ends fast." Kesha's phone buzzed again. Fourth call from the Chief Justice. 5 minutes left. "The documents are in my briefcase," she said. Mitchell stepped toward the car. "I'll collect them for evidence." "No. That briefcase holds protected legal files," she said sharply. "If you have nothing to hide," he smiled cold. "Attorney-client privilege. Sealed cases. Judicial ethics. Everything in that briefcase was bound by law. I invoke my Fourth Amendment rights," she said. "You need a warrant." Mitchell's voice hardened. "Probable cause, suspected vehicle theft." Mall security supervisor Carlos Rodriguez stepped in. "Officers, mall management is concerned." "How long will this take?" "As long as necessary," Mitchell snapped. "Criminal investigation." Torres leaned in. "Sarge, we're viral. Over 40,000 watching right now." Reynolds felt it, the weight of the public eye. One wrong step could burn a career. In the crowd, Mrs. Hayes finally found it. Courthouse directory. The photo. The Honorable Judge Kesha Washington. She surged forward. "Officer, that's Judge Kesha Washington of the Superior Court." Mitchell froze, cuffs in hand. "Ma'am, step back. I worked 40 years in that courthouse," she said firmly. "I know her. And that car? Her father drove it for decades." Reynolds looked between Kesha and Hayes. Doubt crept into his stance. Torres called for a supervisor and more crowd control. Amara's screen read, 45,678 live viewers. Hashtag Judge Washington was trending nationwide. Local news picked up the stream. This is Jennifer Martinez with Channel 7 News, live from Northbrook Shopping Center, where a traffic stop is raising serious questions about racial profiling and public accountability. The situation was slipping through Mitchell's fingers like sand, but his ego chained him in place. Just 3 years from retirement, his record was a minefield. 18 complaints of excessive force, 2 federal lawsuits quietly paid off by the city. This arrest wasn't just routine, it was his last shot at redemption, or the mistake that would define him. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for failure to provide proper vehicle ID and obstruction of justice," Mitchell declared, snapping the cuffs from his belt. "Obstruction?" Reynolds echoed, hesitant. "Tom, maybe we should." "She's been evasive from the start," Mitchell barked, cutting him off. "Turn around." The crowd gasped. Dozens of phones locked onto Kesha as she turned, calm and proud, swallowing the humiliation with poise. In her mind, her father's words whispered like a lifeline. "Sometimes the law fails us, baby girl, but we never fail the law." Then Mitchell's radio crackled like thunder. "All units, be advised. Courthouse security confirms Judge Kesha Washington is unaccounted for from the emergency session. Be alert for emergencies or possible abduction." Mitchell's face went white. Reynolds snapped to action. "Dispatch, Unit 23. What's the description of the missing judge?" "Black female, 45 years old, 5'6". Last seen wearing jeans and a dark blazer. Driving a blue 1967 Mustang. License plate, JRW 1967. Reynolds' eyes locked on the car. JRW 1967. Judge Robert Washington. 1967. The truth slammed into him like a freight train. Her confident posture. The sharp legal vocabulary. He'd testified before Judge Washington for 5 years and never connected the dots. Without her robe, without the bench, she was just a black woman in a classic car. "Tom," Reynolds whispered. "I think we need to." "I don't care who she claims to be," Mitchell growled, but doubt wavered in his tone. Then, Kesha's phone rang again. She glanced down. Caller ID, Chief Justice Margaret Thompson. Emergency vote. Deadlock 4-4. Her vote was the tiebreaker for police accountability legislation. The irony struck like lightning. "Officers," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "I'm going to reach for my ID now. You can watch every movement. You can follow every protocol. But this ends here." Mitchell raised the cuffs again. "Ma'am, do not reach for anything." "Let her," Reynolds ordered, stepping in. "Back off, Tom." Tension rippled through the parking lot. Amara's live stream now had 53,000 viewers. The news camera didn't blink. Mrs. Hayes stood straighter, sensing what was coming. Time slowed. Kesha moved with slow, visible precision. Her hand dipped into her briefcase. Her fingers closed around the leather portfolio. She pulled it free, flipped it open. This was the moment everything would change. The snap of the portfolio echoed like a gunshot. Inside, resting beside pale legal files, was an unmistakable ID, gold-sealed and government-issued. Judge Kesha Washington. Superior Court. Criminal Division. No one breathed. Amara's stream captured Officer Mitchell's face. Once so sure, now slowly collapsing into realization. The sun caught the gold seal. No one who'd ever set foot in court could miss it. "Officer Mitchell," Kesha said, her voice now radiating courtroom gravity. "Badge 4847. I am Judge Kesha Washington of the Superior Court, Criminal Division." Gasps surged through the crowd. Not anger, not noise, just stunned awakening. Mrs. Hayes clutched her hands to her chest, vindication flooding her face. Amara's fingers shook as she struggled to hold the phone. The chat exploded. "She's a judge? That cop's done. This is wild." Reynolds stepped forward slowly. He had 23 years on the job, and every one of them told him his career had just crossed a line. "Your Honor, we had no idea." "Of course you didn't," Kesha answered, closing the portfolio with a sharp click. "You saw a black woman in a nice car and made assumptions. Not evidence. Assumptions." Mitchell stood paralyzed, the cuffs dangling from his hand like a broken cymbal. His logic had been simple. Black woman plus expensive car equals thief. But this wasn't just any judge. This was her. The same judge who'd grilled him in court. The one who dissected his reports, questioned his conduct. This vehicle, Kesha continued, steady and resolute, belonged to my father, Judge Robert Washington. He served this county for 32 years. The same courthouse where I now preside. The same courtroom your department walks into weekly. She reached again into the briefcase, pulled out a second document. The vehicle's registration. Transferred from Robert Washington's estate to me. 18 months ago. You'd have seen it. If you had treated this situation with professionalism instead of prejudice. Reporter Jennifer Martinez shoved closer, camera rolling. This was a career-making moment. Your Honor, can you comment? I can. Kesha said, never breaking her gaze from Mitchell. I can comment on the lack of training that leads to racial profiling. I can comment on the violation of my Fourth Amendment rights. I can comment on the public disgrace of a sitting judge for nothing more than the color of her skin. The viewer count ticked past 60,000. News outlets were already picking it up. Judge Washington began trending nationwide. Hashtag racial profiling, hashtag police accountability flooded social media. Officer Torres approached, body cam blinking. Your Honor, we sincerely apologize. This wasn't a misunderstanding, Kesha interrupted. A misunderstanding is mixing up directions. This was bias. This was profiling. This was the default belief that a black woman couldn't possibly own something of value. Mitchell swallowed hard, his voice barely a breath. Judge Washington, I was following protocol. Protocol. Her brow lifted, the same way it did when cross-examining bad testimony. Does your protocol involve assuming theft based on race? Does it include silencing someone trying to show ID? Does it include threatening arrest for exercising civil rights? She held up her phone. 17 missed calls from Chief Justice Thompson. While you were investigating, I missed my swing vote in a landmark police reform session. Legislation designed to prevent situations like this. The irony was volcanic. Mitchell's actions had derailed reform that was meant to stop people like him from doing exactly what he had done. Ma'am, Your Honor, Reynolds struggled, the words tangling. What should we? What you can do, Kesha said calmly, pulling a small digital recorder from her blazer, is understand I've recorded this entire encounter. For legal purposes. Mitchell turned ghost pale. You were recording? As is my right under California Penal Code 148G, she said crisply. Every citizen can record police in public. Judges must, when civil rights may be violated. The crowd surged forward, hungry for truth. Mrs. Hayes, once silent, now stood tall again, 40 years of legal authority rising in her spine. Officer Mitchell, she said clearly, I told you who she was. 40 years I've worked those courthouse halls. And I know my judges. Ma'am, we do APREC, Torres began. No, Hayes snapped. You don't appreciate anything. You saw skin color and jumped to guilt. I've watched this happen for decades. It's destroyed careers, shattered lives. Amara's live stream had morphed from commentary into public reckoning. Y'all, this is systemic racism, Liv, she whispered. This is why we scream for reform. A judge arrested for driving her own car. While black. Viewer count surged to 75,000. News stations contacted Amara. The video was now evidence. Kesha fully opened her briefcase. Inside were legal briefs, court decisions, civil rights cases. Mitchell saw them and nearly staggered. This wasn't just a judge. This was the judge who presided over police misconduct cases. Officer Mitchell, she said, her tone shifting to absolute authority. I've overseen hundreds of cases on abuse of power. I've ruled on civil rights violations. I've read every statistic on racial bias. She paused, letting it hit. Your precinct stops black drivers 23% more than county average. Your own record, 18 excessive force complaints. 2 federal settlements. All reviewed by me. Mitchell's knees weakened. How could she know this? Because I chair the Judicial Committee on Police Accountability, she answered, as if reading his mind. I review those stats. I approve those settlements. I write those reforms. The crowd inhaled. Mitchell hadn't profiled a random woman. He'd profiled the exact judge tasked with holding cops like him accountable. This incident will be studied, she said, by law students, by civil rights scholars, by the next generation of officers. It will be a case study in racial bias and misuse of authority. Meanwhile, Rodriguez, the mall's security head, was on the phone with corporate, scrambling for PR damage control. The footage was already viral. Kesha's phone rang again. Call number 19 from Chief Justice Thompson. She lifted it. I need to take this. My vote impacts civil rights across California. She answered calmly. Chief Justice, this is Judge Washington. I apologize. I've been detained. Nearby listeners heard the Chief Justice's fury on the other end. The call triggered an immediate contact to the police commissioner. Mitchell's radio flared to life. Unit 47, report to station. Commissioner Hayes requires immediate debrief. Hayes, as in Dorothy Hayes' son, the same Mrs. Hayes who tried to warn them. She stood now, radiant with vindication. Justice delayed, but not denied. Kesha ended the call and turned. Officer Mitchell, you now face a choice. Learn from this, or keep repeating what brought you here. She reached into the briefcase one last time and pulled out her robe, the deep black fabric with red trim. This robe, she said, holding it high, represents 15 years of service. Every verdict, every sentence, every civil right I've protected. Silence dropped like a curtain. Even the live stream paused. When you profiled me, Kesha said, eyes locked on Mitchell, you didn't just profile me. You profiled the entire justice system. You profiled the very Constitution we all swore to uphold. Mitchell's career flashed before him, his pension, his benefits, his legacy, all hanging by a thread. But Kesha had one more card to play, one final truth that would reshape everything. Officer Mitchell, she began, her voice so steady, so commanding, it could silence chaos itself. There's one final detail you need to hear, one that changes everything. The crowd froze. The cameras zoomed in. Viewers on the live stream leaned in, silent. Something major was coming. The emergency judicial conference I missed today, Kesha's voice sliced through the tension, was a vote. A vote on case 2024, CR 8847, your federal civil rights lawsuit. Mitchell's face drained of color. The case he hoped would vanish, the one he buried in paperwork, was under her gavel. Judge Washington had been assigned to decide his fate. Plaintiff Angela Rodriguez claims you racially profiled her, right here, in this exact plaza, 18 months ago. Kesha's words hit like a verdict. Same district, same behavior, same assumptions. Viewership on the live stream blew past 90,000. Amara's hands trembled as she gripped her phone. She was witnessing history. The comments section blurred with outrage, awe, and disbelief. Reynolds stepped forward, his instincts screaming crisis. Your Honor, he tried, voice calm. Officer Mitchell was just following department protocol. Kesha didn't flinch. She opened her briefcase once more, this time pulling out a blue-bound document thick with legal weight. California Penal Code 135 prohibits racial discrimination by law enforcement. That protocol of yours? Illegal. She flipped pages like a machine, precise, relentless. And under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, Officer Mitchell's actions qualify as a federal civil rights violation. The damages? Based on Ninth Circuit precedents, over $2.3 million. Torres didn't hesitate. She reached for her radio and called for a supervisor. This wasn't just misconduct anymore. This was a department-shaking legal bomb. What would it take to resolve this? Reynolds asked, visibly sweating. Kesha smiled, the same cold smile she gave to lawyers who underestimated her. Sergeant Reynolds, you're asking a judge to negotiate her own civil rights violation. That's not justice. That's corruption. Mrs. Hayes stepped forward, her courthouse authority radiating. In all my 40 years, I've never witnessed such flagrant disrespect for basic human rights. Kesha nodded. You're right. But this goes beyond disrespect. This is systemic failure, and it needs a systemic reckoning. She turned to the cameras, her message now meant for the entire nation. Officer Mitchell isn't just one man. He's the embodiment of a pattern that erodes trust in every Black community. Per DOJ data, Black drivers are 31% more likely to be stopped, 44% more likely to be searched, yet 26% less likely to carry contraband. Mitchell finally spoke, his voice shaky. Judge Washington, I made a mistake. Kesha raised a brow, sharp and unimpressed. A mistake, she echoed. You threatened to arrest me for asserting my Fourth Amendment rights. You ignored an eyewitness. You denied me the chance to show ID. You profiled me, period. Those aren't errors. Those are constitutional violations. Suddenly, Rodriguez, the mall security supervisor, approached, attorney on speakerphone. Northbrook Shopping Center was now a liability. Insurance lines were already ringing. Your Honor, the attorney's voice crackled. We deeply regret what happened and are committed to full cooperation. Kesha didn't blink. Regret doesn't change policy. Action does. Your security team allowed racial profiling on private property. That makes you liable under California Civil Code 51.7. She pulled out another legal brief, this one targeting premises liability. The attorney went silent. Shopping centers statewide were now on alert. Sirens approached. Commissioner Hayes had arrived, Mrs. Hayes' son, and a law enforcement veteran with a hard-earned reputation. His eyes landed on his mother, proud, strong, vindicated. Then he looked at his officers, caught in a scandal that could sink careers. Judge Washington, he said with clear respect, I offer my deepest apologies for this violation of your rights. Kesha met his eyes. Commissioner, words are only the beginning. What comes next defines your department. Officer Mitchell's history shows deeper training failures that put everyone at risk, including your budget. She opened her folder again. Municipal Risk Management has paid $847,000 in racial profiling claims over the past 3 years. Mitchell alone cost you $312,000. The commissioner's jaw clenched. Insurance spikes like that could cripple departments. What remedy do you seek, Your Honor? He asked, understanding the gravity. Kesha closed her briefcase with finality. She was ready. Officer Mitchell has 3 options, and whichever he chooses will set the tone for police reform in this county. The crowd fell dead silent. The live stream ticked past 96,000. Option 1, she began. Immediate suspension. Federal investigation. Possible charges. Termination. Due process, but full accountability. Mitchell staggered. Jail. Ruin. Shame. It was all on the table. Option 2, voluntary demotion. 200 hours of bias training. Serve as a case study. Testify before the state. Help fix what you broke. The crowd stirred. Redemption, was it possible? Option 3, immediate retirement. Keep your pension. Walk away from the badge. But never work in law enforcement again. The commissioner did the math. Option 1 meant lawsuits. Option 2 meant progress, but risk. Option 3 meant silence, but escape. Kesha's voice was sharp as ever. Officer Mitchell, you have 60 seconds. Your choice will be binding and historic. No more delays. This wasn't just a decision, it was a reckoning. Mitchell looked at the cuffs in his hand, the ones he almost used on a judge. The lawsuits. The complaints. The reality. His voice cracked. Reynolds touched his shoulder. Tom, think about your family. Your kids. Torres turned on her body cam. Everything would be recorded. The live stream paused. The comment section dead quiet at 98,000 viewers. Mrs. Hayes watched, vindicated. Her son stood beside her, calm but aware that this would be a turning point. Kesha waited. She'd seen this before. The moment a person finally faces their truth. 30 seconds remaining. The countdown echoed in silence. His pension, his freedom, his name, all on the line. This wasn't just math. This was morality. I choose option 2, Mitchell said, barely audible. I'll take the demotion, the training, and testify. I'll face what I did. The parking lot buzzed in disbelief. A cop had chosen accountability, live, public, irreversible. Amara stared at her screen, 104,000 watching justice happen in real time. He actually chose accountability. This is historic. Real change is happening, live. The reporter whispered, her voice trembling as the crowd pressed forward, every phone raised, every live stream climbing in views by the second. The world was watching, not just a confrontation, but a moment that felt like history cracking open in real time. Officer Mitchell stood in stunned silence. Judge Kesha Washington had just issued him an ultimatum, but it wasn't just a punishment, it was a mirror, a public reckoning. Her voice had turned the parking lot into a courtroom, and suddenly, the badge on his chest felt heavier than it ever had before. Every eye was on him, every breath held. Then, slowly, Mitchell stepped forward. The tension was a vice tightening around the entire scene. His voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. I choose. Option 1. Gasps burst from the crowd. Reporters scrambled to capture his words, their hands shaking. I'll take the anti-bias training. In public. With full transparency. I want to do this where the community can hold me accountable. The cameras zoomed in. No applause followed, just silent, heavy, charged. Judge Washington didn't flinch, didn't smile. She simply gave a small nod. That was enough. Her strength had forced something rare. Not just confession, but conversion. Not performative change, but something deeper, visible, raw, uncomfortable truth. Over the next few days, the video spread like wildfire. News channels played the footage on repeat. Social media erupted. Police departments across the country were forced into the light. Community panels were formed. Civilian oversight became a trending demand. What had started in a parking lot was now echoing through town halls, precincts, and Senate hearings. Kesha's stance became a template, a turning point. 1 week later, President Holloway addressed the nation. "This country owes a debt to Judge Kesha Washington," he said. "She reminded us that justice doesn't just belong in courtrooms. It belongs in everyday encounters. We will honor that by signing a new federal reform bill, mandating public accountability in every federally funded department." The crowd outside the White House erupted. And Officer Mitchell? He didn't run from the fire. He walked through it. He attended every training session with the community present. He sat through forums where residents screamed, cried, questioned, and he answered. Without defensiveness. Without excuse. "I used to think my badge made me untouchable," he said once. "Now I realize it means I should be more accountable than anyone." Judge Washington never called herself a trailblazer. But the fire she lit didn't burn alone. It spread to precincts, policy, and people. What began as a routine traffic stop ended as a national reckoning. Because sometimes it takes just one moment, one woman, one voice, to make a system tremble. He thought no one would care because she was a black woman. But she had the power to fight back. What if she didn't? Asterisk. Speech balloon comment Blackheart if you've ever felt powerless in the face of injustice. Bell subscribe, because next time, it might be someone without a title. And we'll have to decide, will we stay